Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a pretty insane story time. Someone sent in to me that they've dealt with their crazy neighbor. It ends with them getting arrested, but it's just a little bit of a saga on its own of this crazy person they live next door to. I'm a sucker for a good insane neighbor story. I thought you guys would enjoy it as well, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into it, be sure to press the like button. Otherwise, no joke, no scam whatsoever. I will be forced to gather all of your data and sell it to the American government. Well, they will then clone you based on your internet interests and send your clone to replace you. You don't want that to happen, so press the like button, and without further ado, let's go. Alright, so as long as this dude had been alive, he had a neighbor that was bizarre to say the least. One of his favorite things to do was to sit in a lawn chair in his front lawn, which, hey, nothing wrong with that. Some people like to sit in their yard and drink a beer, whatever, King of the Hill style. That's totally your right, man. That being said, one thing that he would do that was just weird and made everybody know he was the grumpy old man of the neighborhood is he would sit in his lawn chair on his yard all day, and anytime any leaf would blow into the yard, because that's just what nature does. Sometimes wind comes along, blows a leaf from one yard to another. It's not like anyone's sitting there telling the wind, please blow it into this guy's yard. But he would sit there, and anytime a leaf would blow into his yard, he would get up from his lawn chair, pissed. You could tell he was pissed because he's stomping his feet, swinging his arms. He would go over, pick up the leaf that had just blown into his yard, and then go to his garage. And in his garage, there was this pile, or not pile, line, I guess, of trash bags, like they were all lined up, and each one had a little label above it with a number, and he would go and he would find the bag that corresponded to the number the leaf came from and put it in there. Yeah, that's right. This guy just had decided to spend most of his days sitting in his yard collecting leaves and putting them in a bag because he was so pissed they blew into his yard. Which I could understand how that's really annoying. If you have a neighbor who has a tree that just drops leaves on your yards constantly, I can get why that's annoying. But literally sitting there and watching each leaf blow into your yard, running over and getting it and collecting them, that's a little bit of psychotic behavior. But what made it even crazier, it's not like he was just obsessed with keeping his lawn clean. Eventually, when the trash bags would be full, so let's say his house number was 7. If you lived at 8 and 8 blew enough leaves for the bag to be full, he would come over and just dump the bag on people's yards. So if there was a giant windstorm or something, people were picking stuff up, he would just come over, dump a giant bag of leaves and be like, keep your crap out of my yard, it's not your yard. And people would be annoyed, but at the same time, they just thought it was some crazy old man doing crazy old man things. People would argue with him, but at the end of the day, whatever, just take the trash bag, throw it away. Obviously, this guy's losing his mind, probably better not to argue with him. But that was one of the things that he constantly did. And one of the things that other downsides of him sitting in his lawn chair is he hated all noise, which is stupid to me, bro. I feel like if you're gonna sit in your front yard in a suburban neighborhood where people are just constantly driving and doing things, you just have to prepare for it to be a little loud. Dang it, I'm sitting on a road that's frequently used that people always walk on. Why is it so noisy? Probably because people are walking. But he was the stereotypical old man while he was waiting to clean his lawn too. Any noise, he would be like, do you have any idea how much this breaks the rules of the neighborhood? You're being so disrespectful by daring to make noise. And he wouldn't even just do it for kids playing outside being loud. This guy's mom one time got into an argument with him because she and her friend who lived in the neighborhood were just on a walk around the neighborhood, which nothing wrong with that. I feel like a lot of people go on a walk. That's a pretty normal activity. And as they were walking, they were talking. Not insanely loudly, but it's almost more awkward to just walk in silence with one of your friends saying absolutely nothing. So they were just having a conversation, and they walked past this guy's house, and he was sitting in his lawn chair. And as soon as they walked past him having the conversation, he yelled out something about how, well, why don't you just scream louder if you want the entire neighborhood to hear your conversation? And both of them had stopped and been like, what are you talking about, bro? What? We're literally just walking, having a normal conversation, and he started going off about how it's so disrespectful for people to talk outside of closed doors in public, which, like, I've never heard that rule, and also, isn't yelling at people in public, talking to them in public, like, under your own logic, shouldn't you just never talk? Either way, this guy's mom wasn't gonna take it and was like, shut up, mind your business, I can walk on the sidewalk and talk, I don't need a permission slip. And the old man and her got into it about how, like, what the social etiquette was when it came to walking around a neighborhood and talking. And I didn't realize that was some big controversial statement, dude. Was this guy from, like, the 1500s? That sounds like some medieval rules. Doth not talk while in about the neighborhood, for that hasn't the devil's soul in your body, or whatever, bro. Whatever people would say in, like, the 1500s. I tried my best, but, like, you get what I'm saying. That's a very bizarre thing to be angry about. I've never heard of that being a cultural rule anywhere, like no talking on the sidewalk. Everywhere is a library for this guy. Maybe that's his problem. His mom was like an old school librarian during the Great Depression, just took it way too seriously. Even at home, he wasn't allowed to talk. But that was the type of vibe that this guy was. And yeah, people would be annoyed, and every now and then someone would argue with him, but he really took it to the next level once he started blaming everybody else for the pigeons. I don't know if you guys live in a suburb, but if anyone lives in a suburb where pigeons or like a city is nearby, there's not really a whole lot you can do to get rid of them. I mean, obviously you can put like the little spiky things in the awning so they won't make a nest or whatever, but if pigeons want to be in the area, there isn't really much you can do. No one has the remote control to control the pigeons except for the government, you know, all birds are spies. But that being said, like, you can't really do much if a pigeon is in your backyard. It's not your responsibility. Well, I guess this old man not only wanted all of his neighbors to be able to control the wind and make sure no leaves ever blew into his yard, but he also expected them to just prevent pigeons from being in the neighborhood. There was a time every year where there would be a lot more, like they would make babies or whatever, and it started during that period. He would be out in the lawn, and whenever someone would walk by or go get the mail, instead of just being like, keep your leaves off my lawn, now he started yelling at them, saying that their habits were inviting too many pigeons into the neighborhood, and that if they didn't get rid of the pigeons, he was going to be forced to call the police because he simply could not live with the pigeons making noise. And every time he would yell this at somebody, people would be like, yeah, okay, man, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. It's my fault the pigeons are here. I don't know what he would have expected them to do. Just like run up and start yelling at the pigeons. No one invited you here. They're not a vampire. You don't have to invite them across the threshold for them to like live in your neighborhood. But whatever. He would get mad at individual people and blame them for the pigeons. And so obviously people would get annoyed with him and be like, dude, I'm not inviting the pigeons here. I didn't write them a birthday invitation. I didn't do anything like that. And he was so convinced that the neighborhood had some secret plan to invite all these pigeons here to try to make him move that he started putting these giant signs in his yard. Like, imagine a political sign, you know, blah, 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 whatever year they're running. But instead of a political person or a year or anything, it was just threatening messages like to the pigeons and the people inviting them here, which was his neighbors, but he didn't write like dear neighbors. And they were just some very weird unhinged signs. Like one day this guy was coming home on the bus and he sees that there's two signs in the yard, and they're these huge white poster board looking things, and painted on it in horrible handwriting is like, the pigeons are the enemies, I will defeat them, or whatever. And that's a little bit out there. And the other sign said something about like, if you invite the pigeons, you're an enemy of humanity. Which, listen, bro, I don't think this is Planet of the Apes status. I don't think there's some huge war between pigeons and humans. At least not that I'm aware of. Like, if I missed the memo, someone please let me know. Have we gone to war with pigeons or something? And the neighborhood was just laughing at the guy because now his craziness had extended into like putting signs in his yard trying to declare war on pigeons. I think the only time that a country has ever gone to war with birds is the Great Ostrich War in Australia. If you've never learned about that, after this video, go look it up. Basically, there was a bit where the Australian government literally declared war on ostriches. That's what this guy wanted to do with pigeons. Anyways, he would put these signs up, and every couple days he would change it to a new sign with a different kind of threatening thing on it. And after a while, everybody in the neighborhood decided to tell him to put down the signs. It was just an eyesore, bro. Like, people were having a harder time selling their house because of it. Imagine you go to tour someone's home, you know. Oh, hey, what's that sign in the neighbor's yard? Oh, yeah, he's a crazy man who thinks the birds and the pigeons have made an alliance with the neighborhood for
us to all just ruin his day. And they're like, I don't really know if I want to live by this. And on top of it, it's just not very swag, like grandma's driving through the neighborhood to come over for Thanksgiving, the crazy guys out in the yard screaming about pigeons. So whatever, they decided to go over and tell him to please take the signs down or they would contact the HOA. And for those of you that don't know what an HOA is, it's basically like a little association in charge of the neighborhood, and they can fine you and stuff if your house gets too ugly. It's more common in like suburbs near a city, but I'm sure some of you guys know what it is. Either way, they go and they tell him this, and he gets insanely defensive and starts going off about how like it's his right to put whatever signs he wants in his yard, and the only reason they're upset is because he's found out about their secret agreement with the pigeons. And everyone is just kind of like, okay man, yeah, our secret agreement with the pigeons, we don't really care if we're finding out that we're secretly a part of the pigeon gang or whatever, just take the signs down. And he's being like, no, I'm not gonna take the signs down, you guys are being ridiculous, I'm gonna keep them up, I don't care if I get fined. And so at that point, they decide to report him to the HOA, and the HOA says that he has to take the signs down. There's like a rule, I guess, protecting political signs, but because this guy's just putting up signs being like, the pigeons are in the conspiracy, obviously they kind of tell him he has to take them down. And he really does not like that idea. And so he starts standing guard by his signs to make sure that nobody's going to come take them down. And his standing guard attire is a little bit different in where the issue starts. Alright guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. If you look on your screen, there's a gift card code. I give one away every day just because I appreciate y'all supporting the channel. So if you like free money, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications. And on that note, I'll shut up and get back to the video. Thanks. I don't know if in his mind this was like high mobility clothing just in case he had to get into combat, but he was sitting in his yard in his lawn chair with no shirt on, which hey is fine, whatever, I don't care, in like boxer shorts just sitting there, and he had like an airsoft gun on his left, and he was just sitting there looking at the signs, and it was very clear that he was kind of daring someone to come try to take the signs. He was going to shoot him with the airsoft gun, which you're not allowed to do, when everyone knew it was an airsoft gun because it had a big old orange tip on it. And obviously, as more people realized that this dude is just sitting in his underwear in the yard guarding his signs, they started to be like, dude, go inside, this is ridiculous, you can't be out here, like, come on, this is absurd. And he starts screaming more about how it's his right to display whatever signs he wants, and if they have a problem, they can just call the cops and he'll explain the Constitution to them too. And they start reasoning with them, or trying to reason with them, I should say, being like, look, we don't want to call the cops. We just want the signs down. That's it. No one is conspiring with the pigeons against you. Just take down the signs. And he's, no, no, no. And now they're also annoyed because he's just sitting in his lawn in his underwear, which is probably not appropriate. Definitely not appropriate. So they decide that they're going to call the police. And I don't really know what else their option is to do. And I can't imagine how that call went down. Like, hello, what's your emergency? Yeah, my neighbor's sitting in his yard in his underwear with an airsoft gun, threatening to shoot anyone that tries to touch the signs that he's been ordered to take down with it. Alright, is it Dan? Oh, you guys know him? Yeah, he does this once a week on the freeway. Like he's just well known in the area or something, but whatever, they call. And they tell him that like, alright, they're on their way. You can still just get rid of all of this if you know, take down the signs and just go inside. We can avoid all of this. Everyone can go about their business. No one really wants to be out here. But Mr. Crazy Neighbor is not really having any of it, and he's like, oh, I can't wait to talk to them. I'm going to tell them everything about how, their laws don't apply to me or whatever. And so they're like, okay. And most people go in. There's like 2 dads out there. One of them is the HOA president, and they're just sitting there with the guy in his lawn chair, and people are kind of watching through the window and whatnot. And the subscriber's dad ended up telling him this story later because he was one of the guys that was standing there. But the entire time, he's starting to ridicule them about how like, oh, trust me, it's the end of the line for them. Once the cop gets here and he shows them all the evidence he has of the pigeons conspiring with them, they're gonna have no choice but to take them to jail. And they're like, dude, what? You have evidence of all of us conspiring with the pigeons? And he says, yeah, I've been gathering it for months, like I'm going to show the cops who's boss and they're going to have to arrest you because you're treasonous, to the government. And listen, I've never heard of anyone getting arrested for treason because they really like pigeons or like, have a secret alliance with them, but they just kind of are trying to stand there and not make the crazy man angrier. And finally, the cops show up and they walk up and they're like, all right, man, can you put down the airsoft airsoft gun and go put some clothes on? You can't wear that out here. And he's like, yes, officer, I'll bring my evidence out as well. And so he finally gets up out of his underwear with his airsoft gun. He goes inside, he puts it down, he comes back out with some clothes on, and he has a laptop with him. And immediately the police are like, all right, what seems to be the situation? And they start telling him, look, the sign's got to come down. Here's the thing from the HOA saying they have to come down. I'm the HOA president. We came to take it down. He came out with the airsoft gun, sat in his lawn chair, and the police are like, okay, well, sir, what do you think? They have to get both sides, like they have to take a statement from both people, you know what I'm saying? And he goes, well, officer, what he unfortunately left out is that this entire neighborhood has been working in cahoots with the pigeons to try to lower my property value. And the cop's like, okay, I'm not too sure about that. Do you have any evidence? Thinking that if the guy goes, no, I don't have any evidence, he can be like, oh, all right, well then we'll just disregard all this stuff, the rambling that he's about to do. And he says, yes, I do. And he opens his laptop and he's like, watch this. And it's basically, he had security cameras on the front of his house, and it's clips of people like walking by in front of his house as they do in the neighborhood. And then like 2 minutes later, a pigeon would come and land on his lawn. And obviously everyone watching this is kind of like, okay, yeah, a lady walks by and 2 minutes later, a bird lands on your lawn. That definitely does happen. We can see that on the video, but they're not really understanding what that means. And he's like, don't you get it? And the cop says, no, I don't get it. Can you explain? And he says, well, what the lady is doing is she's walking by and she's calling the pigeon and saying, come poop on his lawn. And so after 2 minutes, they don't want to make it too obvious. The pigeon comes and poops on the lawn. Look, I have another one. He swipes to another one, and it's his neighbor backing his truck out of the driveway and leaving. And then like 5 minutes later, it goes and a pigeon is sitting where the truck was. And the cop's like, okay, what about this one? I go, what does any of this mean? And he says, well, the pigeon is standing guard on his parking spot. Like, this dude had just gone full off of his rocker. The pigeons are working against him with the government. Even then, why would they, like, imagine, bro? Your entire neighborhood apparently has Dr. Dolittle skills. They're all talking to the pigeons. That's the world this guy is creating, right? Why would they use that power to just bug you and have them poop on the lawn? Or, like, why would this guy use a pigeon to guard his parking spot? Is his parking spot in danger? Did you plan on stealing it or something? Like, why would he use his power for that? I don't know, man. I feel like if I could talk to birds, I would just be the best, like, sea-level superhero of all time. Birdman, you know, I would just show up and they'd be like, are you Batman? No, I'm worse. And then, like, a horde of pigeons would come at them and just kill them with their street bird rat disease. Anyways, at this point, even the cop is like, all right, this guy's off his rocker. And so he says, well, you have to take the signs down even if they are working with the pigeons. There's not really much that we can do about it, but I do have this order here saying that you have to take these down. And then the guy starts getting pissed. He starts going off on this cop, being like, you have a duty to uphold the Constitution, and when you took that oath, you said you would defend it against all enemies. And they are an enemy. You saw the proof of them colluding with the pigeons to try to bring this neighborhood down. And as an American citizen, I demand that you protect me from this plot to devalue my property. And he's going off. And the cop is trying to be nice. Like, he realizes this guy's just a little out there. So he's trying to be like, all right, that's not what's happening, sir. Please calm down. But the guy keeps getting more and more animated every time the guy is like, I'm not going to arrest the entire neighborhood and put them in jail forever because you think they're working with the pigeons. And the guy is like, I showed you proof. I showed you proof that they're colluding with the prison, or the pigeons, not the prisons. And the cop says, you didn't show me any proof. All you showed me is that birds land sometimes after people walk by, which is just nature being nature. And at that point, the neighbor does something that he definitely regretted. He gets up out of his lawn chair that he had still been sitting in to, like, show them the laptop. And he starts to get up in the cop's face. Which, listen, if the guy's been super chill so far, you've been ranting about how pigeons are working with your neighbors to overthrow the government. I don't know why you would get up in his face. He's already being very chill with you. But he gets up in his face, and the cop's like, okay, back up, get out of my face. And the neighbor is like, you can't tell me what to do. you. I'm a citizen. I'm the reason that you have a job. I'm paying your salary. So I'm not going to do anything that you say. And what I'm going to do is tell you what's about to go down. You are going to arrest everyone in this neighborhood for treason against the United States. And if you don't, I'm going to contact your boss and I'll get you fired and da-da-da-da-da. And as he's doing this, he's waving his finger and he says, now get it done. And when he says, now get it done, I don't know why he decides to do this, but he takes his finger and he jams it in the chest and just shoves him. And at that point, the cops had enough and he's like, all right, that's it. Hands behind your back. And the guy's like, you're arresting me? You're arresting me? And he says, yeah, you're way out of line here. Disorderly conduct, you're starting to like get up in my face and push me. This is enough. This is enough. And the guy's like, this is ridiculous. My constitutional rights are being violated by the pigeons. And the cop's like, look, just put your hands behind your back. I might not process you, but you're at least going in the back of the car. And at that point, he just starts freaking out, like thrashing around, being like, no, you don't have the right to do this. All I was doing is showing you the treasonous behavior of my neighbors. And the cop's doing his best to like not have to fight him. So he's like, okay, man, like, look, let's just go sit in the back of the car. Like, you just gotta calm down. And finally he turns. And when he turns, I don't know if he meant to or not, but he elbows the cop like right in the chin. And at that point, he does what he has to do. And let's just say the guy who's convinced that the pigeon, is colluding with his neighbor to take over the government, once the guy actually is like, okay, I'm gonna have to put him in the back of the car, it doesn't take long. He very quickly is like, okay, this guy's stronger than me, and it doesn't get any worse than that. But he gets him in the car and he walks over to the guy who's in charge of the HOA and he's like, what in the world is going on? And they say that they've had issues in the past about da-da-da-da-da, but this is the first time it's gotten this far. And he's like, all right, well, you guys can take the signs down because you have the paperwork that says that's allowed. I don't really know what we're going to do with this situation, but like, go ahead and do it. And so they start going up onto the guy's lawn and taking the signs down, which is what they were allowed to do. The HOA had said go for it. And listen, I don't know if I really agree with whether or not the HOA should be in charge of everything in your yard or whatnot, but like, you picked the neighborhood to live in, you've been paying the dues, you signed the contract, like it is what it is. But as they're taking the yard signs down, they hear screaming and they look, and in the back of the cop car, they can see the guy being like, get off my lawn, you have no right to take the signs, I know you're working with the pigeons. And they're just like, ignoring it, trying to get everything done, but he just won't stop yelling at him. And they take the signs down, they like put him in the back of this truck thing that they had that was taking some stuff to the dump, and the truck drives away and they go back home. And all they know is that the cop car left, he was still in the back of it. A few days later though, they're shocked to see that he is back in his lawn chair, sitting there, same thing as before with the leaves blowing into the yard and whatnot, collecting them in the bags. But it seemed like whatever they had talked to him about down at the station made him realize that the pigeon theory might have been a little bit silly and overblown, because he dropped it after that. Apparently he had been collecting evidence for quite some time. Who knows how many videos he had of people walking by and then a pigeon 2 minutes later. But however much time he spent there, apparently that got figured out because he never really brought it up again. Probably more out of embarrassment than anything, like you probably snap out of that delusion, oh crap, I guess the pigeon isn't working for the government, and realize, wait, I got into a fight with all my neighbors where I told them that pigeons are secretly the CIA. What? He would still come drop the bags of trash off. It's not like he completely changed. He was still pretty shameless about that. But yeah, he probably learned his lesson on the pigeon front, just because, goodness gracious, man. I don't know how people get on this like rabbit holes where they just start believing the most insane things ever. I think it has something to do with the internet, just because I feel like if you get into a big enough echo chamber, you can convince yourself of anything. But pigeons working with your neighbors to overthrow the government is definitely a new one. What would that society even look like? Like, let's pretend that the pigeons did take over the neighborhood. Would it just slowly become like Bird Person from Rick and Morty ruling the universe or something? I don't really know how that would shake out. Either way, the trash bag situation does still continue to this day. But I'll do another quick story that he added about his neighbor here in the trash bag situation, because it's not as crazy as the pigeon belief. Like, that's the craziest thing he's ever done, but this one was just funny. Anyways, I guess one time he really wanted to teach everybody a lesson to keep their leaves out of his lawn. You know, because everyone is standing out there directing the leaves, telling the trees, whispering to them, please don't drop your leaves on this lawn, put it in that guy's lawn because it pisses him off so much. But instead of just filling up one bag full of leaves and then going and like dumping it on someone's lawn, he decided to let them build up for a while to the point where like every house had 3 bags full of leaves. And this took over a year. Like for a year, a little bit of it stopped. He was still collecting it and yelling at people, but no bags were dumped. And so he had these huge bags overstuffed with these leaves, right? Like he had just crammed way too much into them, and he got them all in his hands, and they're pretty heavy bags. They've got twigs and whatnot. And he starts going across the street to like dump them all on people's lawns. He just wanted to do a big pile as petty as possible. Maybe this was his revenge for the pigeons, you know, just dump like 9 bags of lawn clippings on their yard. But whatever, he starts going across the street with them. And I guess the way that they were positioned or whatever, the sticks in the bag, the weight of the bags, as he's going across the street, like 4 of the bags just rip at the bottom and all the leaves spill onto the road. Which, listen, honestly, if he would have just left them alone, the wind probably would have blown them back out of his yard down somewhere else. But now that this guy had collected them and the bags had just ripped, there's just like a ginormous pile of lawn clippings and whatnot all over the road. And it's his fault now. Like, there's no argument that he's not responsible for cleaning this up. He just made the mess in the road. Unless he's colluding with the trees to try to shut down the road system or something, if we're going to use his own logic. And they only know this because someone was watching it back on the security camera footage later. And as soon as the bag rips, he just looks down at the pile of leaves, and you can see him take like a really big sigh and go, before he goes back over to his house, grabs a rake, and starts cleaning it up, like raking it all up and putting it back in bags. And there's something so funny about him trying to be petty enough to gather these leaves for like a year. Just get a ginormous pile, ruin someone's yard, make them call a landscaper back out, and then as you're on your way to dump it on their lawn, them ripping and you having to clean it all up again. Like, that's hilarious, bro. You're not very good at being petty and getting revenge on people if you end up having to clean up their mess twice. And listen, man, I can understand it would be annoying if there was leaves in your yard, but like, just ask them to clean it up. Tell them to trim the tree. I feel like collecting it in a different bag just to go piss them off with it on purpose. If anything, it would bring them joy when there's more leaves on the yard. But whatever, it takes him about 30 minutes to rake all this up. And by that point, he had just gotten tired, I guess. Like, raking for 30 minutes isn't a blast. I'm sure after already carrying the heavy bags all around, he was exhausted. So he just takes the bags, puts them in his trash can, and then just like goes back inside. So his entire plan that he had been working on for an extended period of time to get all these bags or whatever, like after he had to clean it all up, he just decided it was no longer worth it and threw all the bags away. I can't really blame him though. He's like, dang it, if I try to do this again and another one rips and I have to rake this all up a third time, I'm going to lose my mind. But still, the dedication, collecting leaves for a year, one breaks, just scrap the entire project, who cares? I just really wonder how people like this stay so mad. Like, how are you just so angry all the time? Doesn't it get exhausting? Like, even when it's the summertime, it's hot, it's humid outside, you still just want to sit out there on your lawn and collect leaves to be petty to your neighbors? Do you really have nothing better to do? Like, come on, man. I just feel like if you have time to fight with your neighbors, it's just proof that your life has to be boring. Because if you want to fight with your neighbors, it means you just need entertainment all the time. Like, I feel like people who got stuff going on, that's the last person you ever want to fight with. Wait, they live next door and I have to see them all the time? Yeah, no thank you. I'd rather not get into a fight with somebody that's gonna, like, know where I live. But I guess this guy, that's just all he's got left. Yep, I retired, the grandkids never visit, but I'm basically in a Cold War with my neighbors, so that's pretty cool. I don't know, man. Some people just want to be mad, especially these days, bro. It'll be funny like 60 years from now how many people from our generation are just angry tweeting into the void as like 80-year-olds. I hate that guy. Okay, grandpa, they're gonna act like Homer Simpson from the Simpsons movie. Eepa! Eepa! Like no one's gonna be able to know what they're saying in the first place. Just using swag from the early 21st century, or slang, sorry. I guess swag would be slang from the early 21st century. But man, it's just gonna to be cringe when we get old. I just hope I'm not a very grumpy old man. Like, I don't want to be fighting with my neighbors, okay? I don't want to know my neighbors. How about that? How about when I'm an old man, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone, everyone's happy. Anyways, guys, that'll do it for the video. I just thought this was a really funny story time y'all would enjoy. If you did, then because this was a longer video, you should press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. If you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment the word pigeon down below. If you comment pigeon, you are also confirming that you work with the Secret Pigeon Coalition. Let me know if it exists. I want to be in on the secret. Other than that, if you like these types of videos, just funny stories or just, goofing off, whatever it may be, then you should subscribe and turn on notifications because I post videos every single day and you don't want to miss out. And I've been on the grind, okay? Like, are you kidding me? Like 20-minute videos daily for a while. There's some short ones, but they've been mostly long. You guys say you like the long ones, I provide. Either way, beyond that, if you like listening to the story times but don't have time always to watch the gameplay, want to listen offline, whatever, I do post the audio on Spotify. A link to that can be found in the description. Feel free to check that out. And I also made a new playlist here on YouTube with some of my favorite story times from this year. So if you need something to watch while you're gaming, whatever it may be, feel free to check that out. Link in the description too. And yeah, on that note, that's everything I got to plug. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm gonna go work with the pigeons now. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. Wow, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you. You want to join my cult? Basically, me and all the rats got together, made a secret pact to overthrow the government. It's sick.